The first thing I learned about rich people was that they liked pretending monsters didn't exist. That was exactly what tonight felt like. A room full of beautiful predators smiling beneath golden chandeliers while soft violin music floated through the air as if none of them had blood on their hands. Including me. I stood near the edge of the ballroom gripping a glass of champagne I hadn't touched once, trying not to look nervous while rain slid down the massive windows surrounding the penthouse hall. Tokyo glittered outside. Cold. Endless. Beautiful. The kind of city where people disappeared every night and nobody asked questions. You look like you're about to run. I nearly jumped when Haruka appeared beside me. My best friend adjusted the sleeve of her sparkling silver dress before handing me an annoyed look. You're fidgeting again. I hate rich people events. You love free food. That's different. She snorted softly. The ballroom was packed with politicians, celebrities, business executives, and people dangerous enough to make even politicians nervous. Expensive perfume mixed with cigar smoke and old money. Laughter echoed beneath crystal chandeliers while waiters moved elegantly between tables carrying trays of wine. Everything looked perfect. Which meant something terrible was probably about to happen. You still haven't told me why your professor invited us here, I muttered. Haruka leaned closer dramatically. Because wealthy people enjoy pretending they support young artists before crushing their dreams later. Comforting. I try. I rolled my eyes, but my attention drifted across the ballroom again. That was when I noticed people moving. Not dancing. Moving aside. Quietly. Like a wave splitting down the center of the room. The atmosphere changed instantly. The laughter softened. Conversations lowered. Even the violinists seemed tense. And then I saw her. Reina Kurosawa. I'd heard her name before. Everyone in Tokyo had. The woman newspapers called the Ice Queen of the underworld. Some called her a business genius. Others called her a murderer. Most people were smart enough not to call her anything at all. She walked into the ballroom wearing a fitted black suit so sharp and expensive it looked dangerous by itself. Long black hair framed her pale face perfectly, smooth and elegant against the darkness of her clothes. But it was her eyes that froze me. Silver gray. Cold enough to cut through glass. The kind of eyes that looked like they'd seen terrible things and survived anyway. Two men followed behind her like shadows, but nobody looked at them. The entire room looked at her. And somehow, after only seconds inside the ballroom, she looked directly at me. I forgot how to breathe. Her gaze locked onto mine with terrifying precision. Not curious. Not surprised. Certain. Like she'd already decided something. My stomach tightened immediately. Don't look at her too long, Haruka whispered suddenly. Too late. Reina was already walking toward us. No. Toward me. Every step she took felt controlled. Measured. Like a predator approaching carefully so it wouldn't scare its prey away too soon. The ballroom disappeared around me. The music disappeared. Even the lights felt dimmer somehow. I became painfully aware of everything about myself at once, my heartbeat, my breathing, the way my fingers tightened around the champagne glass. Reina stopped directly in front of me. Up close, she was even more intimidating. Tall. Elegant. Sharp cheekbones softened only slightly by glossy dark lipstick. A faint scent of expensive perfume and cigarette smoke clung to her. Danger wrapped in silk. Her eyes lowered briefly to the red dress I wore before lifting back to my face. You're staring, she said calmly. Her voice was low and smooth. The kind of voice that could convince someone to ruin their life willingly. My throat betrayed me. Reina's lips twitched slightly. Amused. Cute. That somehow embarrassed me even more. I wasn't staring, I managed finally. A liar too. Haruka suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. Traitor. Reina tilted her head slightly while studying me. Not casually. Intensely. Like she was memorizing details. You don't belong here, she murmured. I frowned immediately. That's rude. A faint smile appeared on her face. Beautiful. Dangerous. I didn't say it was a bad thing. I hated how warm my face suddenly felt. You know, I said carefully, most people introduce themselves before insulting strangers. Most people are boring. Haruka choked on her drink beside me. Reina ignored her completely. Those silver eyes never left mine. Not once. You know who I am, she said softly. It wasn't a question. Yes. And yet you're still talking to me. Something about the way she said it felt strange. Almost disappointed. I crossed my arms slightly. Should I be scared? Her gaze darkened faintly. Yes. The honesty of the answer sent chills down my spine. But strangely, it didn't make me step away. If anything, it made me more curious. Which was probably a terrible sign for my survival. Reina noticed everything. I could tell immediately. The tiny shift in my breathing. The hesitation in my eyes. The way my fingers trembled slightly around the glass. She stepped closer. Too close. Close enough for me to notice the silver ring on her finger. Close enough to feel warmth radiating from her body. You're nervous, she murmured. You're intimidating. That too. My heartbeat became ridiculous. Why was she looking at me like this? Like I was something fascinating. Something she wanted. The thought alone made my stomach twist. I know you, Reina said suddenly. I blinked. That's impossible. You paint. A pause. You sold a watercolor piece in Shibuya last winter. I stared at her in shock. How do you know that? Her expression remained calm. I remember interesting things. Something about those words felt heavier than they should have. Before I could answer, a loud crash echoed somewhere upstairs. The ballroom instantly fell silent. Then came shouting. A woman screamed. Every muscle in Reina's body changed immediately. Not fear. Awareness. Sharp. Deadly. One of the men behind her moved quickly toward the staircase while speaking quietly into an earpiece. The atmosphere turned poisonous within seconds. Guests began whispering nervously. Some started leaving. Others pretended nothing was wrong. Rich people really were experts at denial. Gunshots exploded upstairs. The sound ripped through the ballroom violently. People screamed. Glass shattered somewhere. Panic erupted instantly. I flinched hard as guests shoved past each other toward the exits. What the hell? Before I could finish, Reina grabbed my wrist. Strong. Fast. Warm. Come with me. What? Another gunshot echoed. Much closer. Fear slammed into me all at once. The ballroom dissolved into chaos. Security guards rushed forward. Women cried. Someone fell near the entrance. And through all of it, Reina remained terrifyingly calm. She pulled me against her side protectively while moving toward a private hallway near the back of the ballroom. Wait, Haruka. She already left, Reina said sharply. How do you know? I made sure. That answer barely processed before another explosion echoed nearby. The lights flickered. My pulse nearly stopped. Reina's hand slid firmly around my waist as she guided me down the dark hallway. The touch burned straight through me. Even terrified, I noticed it. Which felt deeply unfair. Why are they shooting? I whispered. Business disagreement. Business? Reina actually looked amused. In my industry, yes. You're insane. You're still following me. God. Why did she sound pleased about that? The hallway opened into a quieter private lounge away from the ballroom chaos. Rain hammered softly against the tall windows while distant shouting echoed through the building. Raina finally released my wrist. I instantly missed the warmth, which was definitely becoming a problem. She turned toward me slowly. You should leave the city for a few days. I stared at her. You can't seriously say that like it's normal. It's safer. For who? Her eyes sharpened slightly. For you. Silence stretched between us. My heartbeat refused to calm down. She looked impossibly beautiful standing there beneath the dim golden lights. Black suit sleeves rolled slightly upward now, exposing tattooed lines disappearing beneath expensive fabric. Dangerous hands. Dangerous woman. Dangerous eyes staring at me like she already owned something she hadn't touched yet. You keep looking at my mouth, Raina murmured softly. My soul left my body. I am not. You are. Heat exploded across my face. Raina stepped closer again. Slowly. Deliberately. I wonder, she said quietly, if you always blush this easily. My back nearly touched the wall behind me. The tension between us became unbearable. Outside the room, distant sirens echoed somewhere far below the skyscraper. But inside, everything felt still. Raina's fingers lifted slowly toward my face. She brushed one strand of hair behind my ear with surprising gentleness. The tiny touch shattered my ability to think properly. Her silver eyes lowered briefly to my lips. And for one insane moment, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she leaned close enough for her lips to nearly brush my ear. You're dangerous for my self-control, Miyu. Then she stepped away. Just like that. Leaving my entire body burning. A loud knock interrupted the moment. One of her men entered quickly. It's handled, boss. Boss. The word hit differently hearing it aloud. Raina's expression turned cold again instantly. Like the softer version of her had never existed. She looked back at me one final time. Miyu. The way she said my name felt intimate already. Possessive. If I tell you to run later tonight. Her gaze darkened slightly. Don't hesitate. I should have run the moment Reina Kurosawa told me to. Instead, I followed her deeper into the night. That decision ruined my life beautifully. The private elevator descended in complete silence while Tokyo's lights reflected against the black mirrored walls around us. My pulse still hadn't recovered from the gunshots upstairs. Or from her touching me. Reina stood beside me with one hand in her pocket, perfectly composed despite the chaos that had erupted less than 10 minutes ago. Her black suit remained immaculate. Not a single strand of dark hair out of place. Like violence simply belonged around her. I hated how attractive that looked. You're shaking. I looked away immediately. I'm not used to being shot at. A faint smile touched her lips. Reasonable. The elevator continued downward smoothly. I became painfully aware that we were alone. Completely alone. The silence between us felt dangerous now. Heavy. Intimate. I could still feel the ghost of her fingers against my waist. Still hear the way she whispered my name near my ear upstairs. Dangerous for my self-control. What did that even mean? You're thinking too loudly, Reina murmured. I frowned. That's not a thing. With you, it is. God. Everything she said sounded flirtatious somehow. The elevator doors opened into an underground parking garage lined with black luxury vehicles and armed guards. Armed guards. Because apparently my night wasn't insane enough already. Several men immediately lowered their heads respectfully when Reina stepped out. Boss. She acknowledged them with a small nod before walking forward. I followed nervously. One of the guards glanced at me briefly before quickly looking away again. Not judgmental. Careful. Like he already knew better than to stare at me too long. That realization made something strange twist inside my stomach. Reina opened the back door of a sleek black car herself. Get in. I hesitated. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me not to enter a mafia boss's vehicle voluntarily. Raina noticed immediately. Her silver-gray eyes softened slightly. "You're safer with me tonight." Safer? The terrifying part? I believed her. Even worse. Part of me wanted to keep following her. I slid into the car silently. The leather seats smelled expensive. Rain tapped softly against the tinted windows while Raina entered beside me moments later. The driver pulled away immediately. Tokyo blurred outside in streaks of neon light and rain. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. The tension inside the car grew unbearable. I glanced toward Raina carefully. Big mistake. She was already looking at me. Watching me. Not casually either. Intensely. Like she'd been studying my face the entire time. "What?" I muttered nervously. "You're prettier up close." My brain stopped functioning. Completely. What kind of answer is that? The honest one. Heat exploded across my face. Raina looked genuinely amused now. "You blush constantly. You say insane things constantly." That tiny sound somehow felt more intimate than words. I crossed my arms defensively. "You flirt like a supervillain." "And yet," she said calmly, "you haven't asked me to stop." The silence afterward nearly killed me. Because she was right. And we both knew it. Rain continued sliding down the windows while soft city lights illuminated her face in flashes of gold and blue. She looked unreal. Like someone designed specifically to destroy lives elegantly. "You really scare people," I said quietly. Raina leaned back slightly. "I know. Doesn't that bother you?" "No." The answer came instantly. Without hesitation. "But," she added softly after a pause, "you looking afraid bothers me more than I expected." My heartbeat stumbled again. I stared at her. This woman had people with guns following her everywhere. People literally called her the Ice Queen. Yet somehow she kept saying things that sounded almost careful. Like my reactions mattered to her. Which made no sense. We barely knew each other. "So what now?" I asked eventually. "You stay somewhere secure for a few days." "You mean kidnapped?" "You're very dramatic. You dragged me into a mafia escape car." Her lips twitched. "Cute." The realization horrified me. Nothing about Reina Kurosawa should have looked cute. "You can leave any time you want," she said calmly. "Really?" "No." I stared at her in disbelief. She actually smiled. A real smile this time. Sharp. Beautiful. Brief. It changed her entire face. And somehow made her even more dangerous. "You joke about crimes way too comfortably. I commit them comfortably too." I covered my face with my hands. "This night feels fake." Raina's low laughter filled the car softly. God. Even her laugh sounded attractive. I was absolutely losing my mind. The car finally slowed near a massive gate surrounded by black iron fencing and towering trees. Security lights illuminated a breathtaking modern mansion hidden behind layers of rain and darkness. No. Not mansion. Fortress. The gates opened instantly for Raina's vehicle. Of course they did. The car rolled forward along a long stone driveway while my jaw slowly dropped. Warm golden lights glowed through enormous windows. Water reflected beautifully across polished black architecture. It looked less like a home and more like the secret headquarters of someone rich enough to buy governments. "Do you live here alone?" I asked quietly. Mostly. Mostly somehow sounded worse. The car stopped beneath a covered entrance where several staff members waited silently with umbrellas. The second Raina stepped out, everyone moved immediately. Fast. Precise. Terrified. One older woman approached carefully. Miss Kurosawa, the East Wing has been secured. Good. Reina removed her suit jacket calmly before turning toward me. Come inside. Rain hammered violently outside now. I hesitated again. This time, Reina noticed something different in my expression. Fear. Real fear. Her gaze softened almost invisibly. Nobody here will touch you, she said quietly. The intensity behind those words made my chest tighten. Not a promise. A warning. To everyone else. I stepped out slowly. The mansion interior nearly stole my breath. Dark marble floors. Towering ceilings. Soft golden lighting. Modern artwork lining black walls. The entire place smelled faintly of cedarwood and expensive perfume. Beautiful. Cold. Lonely. Reina walked beside me quietly while staff disappeared silently around us. You live like a movie villain, I muttered. Again, she replied smoothly, you say that like it's criticism. I tried not to smile. Failed. Reina noticed immediately. And looked far too pleased about it. She guided me upstairs toward a massive guest suite overlooking the rain-soaked gardens outside. This room is yours. Yours. Something about the way she said it felt strange again. Possessive. The bedroom itself looked bigger than my entire apartment. Soft lighting illuminated dark furniture and enormous windows while rain traced silver lines against the glass outside. I turned slowly. You seriously expect me to sleep here? Reina removed the cufflinks from her sleeves casually. Yes. You don't think this is weird? No. Your self-awareness is terrifying. She ignored that. There are clothes in the wardrobe. Food will be brought shortly. You prepared all this fast. I prepare for many things. That answer somehow sounded threatening. My gaze dropped briefly toward the tattoos visible beneath her partially rolled sleeves. Black ink curled sharply across elegant skin. Beautiful. Dangerous. My curiosity betrayed me before I could stop it. What do they mean? Reina glanced down at her tattoos briefly. Then back at me. You really are fearless. I'm curious. You should learn the difference. Her voice lowered slightly. The atmosphere changed instantly again. Warmer. Heavier. I swallowed hard. Reina stepped closer slowly. Every nerve in my body became painfully alert. You keep looking at me like you want answers, she murmured softly. Maybe I do. And if the answers ruin you? The question wrapped around my throat like silk. I should have backed away. Instead, I whispered. Then maybe I was already ruined. For the first time that night. Reina Kurosawa looked genuinely affected. Her silver eyes darkened slowly while her gaze lowered toward my lips. The tension between us became almost unbearable. I could hear my own heartbeat. Feel warmth radiating from her body. See the exact moment her self-control started slipping. Miyu, she said quietly. The way she said my name felt dangerous now. Like a confession trying to happen. A knock suddenly interrupted us. The moment shattered instantly. One of her men appeared at the doorway. Boss. We found out who attacked the ballroom. Reina's entire expression turned cold again. Sharp. Murderous. What did they want? She asked calmly. The man hesitated. Then glanced toward me. Reina noticed immediately. And stepped slightly in front of me. Protective. They were asking about the girl. They were asking about the girl. The words turned my blood cold instantly. Rain hammered violently against the mansion windows while silence filled the room like smoke. I stared at the man standing at the doorway. What do you mean they were asking about me? He looked uncomfortable answering. Or maybe terrified. Not of me. Of Reina. Reina stood perfectly still beside me, one hand slipping casually into her pocket while her silver gray eyes turned dangerously unreadable. Leave us, she said calmly. The man nodded immediately and disappeared without another word. The door shut softly behind him. The silence afterward felt suffocating. I looked at Reina slowly. You want to explain why armed men are suddenly interested in me? She didn't answer immediately. That scared me more. Reina walked toward the massive window overlooking the rain-soaked gardens outside. Her reflection shimmered faintly against the dark glass, elegant and cold beneath the dim golden lighting. I told you already, she said quietly. You should have left the city. Okay, no, don't do that mysterious Mafia thing right now. She glanced back at me slightly. Mysterious Mafia thing? Yes. The calm voice. The dramatic pauses. The staring into rain like you're in a crime movie. A faint smile touched her lips despite the tension. You're unexpectedly funny. I'm trying not to panic. That smile vanished immediately. Reina turned toward me fully then. And for the first time since meeting her. She looked angry. Not at me. For me. I won't let anyone touch you, she said quietly. The sheer certainty in her voice sent chills down my spine. It wasn't reassurance. It was a threat aimed at the rest of the world. I crossed my arms tightly. That doesn't answer my question. Reina studied my face for a long moment before finally speaking. The men tonight belonged to the Fujimoto group. I frowned. The rival syndicate? You know them? My professor talks too much. Reina stepped closer slowly. There's been tension between our organizations for months. And that somehow involves me because... Her eyes darkened slightly. Because someone gave them your name. My stomach dropped instantly. What? They knew where you'd be tonight. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible in my world, Miyu. Her world. The words settled heavily inside me. I suddenly remembered the way people moved around her. The fear in everyone's eyes. The armed guards. The blood upstairs. This wasn't a game. Reina Kurosawa was genuinely dangerous. And somehow, I was standing inside her mansion wearing borrowed clothes while staring at her mouth. I needed psychiatric help. I don't understand, I whispered. Why would anyone care about me? Reina's jaw tightened faintly. That, she said quietly, is what I intend to find out. The room fell silent again. My thoughts spun violently. None of this made sense. I was just an art student. I sold paintings online. My biggest life problem 3 days ago was unpaid rent. Now Mafia syndicates apparently knew my name. Amazing. Fantastic. Perfect. You look overwhelmed, Reina murmured. Really? What gave it away? The sarcasm. I dropped onto the edge of the enormous bed and rubbed my forehead tiredly. This is insane. Reina walked toward me slowly. Even exhausted and stressed, my body reacted instantly to her presence. Which was deeply annoying. She stopped directly in front of me. Close enough for me to notice the faint scar near her wrist. Close enough to smell expensive perfume lingering against her skin. You're safe here, she said softly. You keep saying that. Because you keep doubting it. I looked up at her. You really think nobody would dare touch me here? Reina's expression changed slightly then. Something darker. Possessive. Miyu, she said quietly, people disappear for less than threatening what belongs to me. My breath caught. The room suddenly felt much warmer. What belongs to me? The word should have terrified me. Instead, my pulse skipped. Which was absolutely not normal. Reina noticed my reaction immediately. Of course she did. That woman noticed everything. Her silver eyes lowered slowly to my lips before returning to my eyes again. Dangerous. That look was dangerous. You shouldn't say things like that, I whispered. Why? Because you know exactly what you're doing. A small smile appeared on her face. And what am I doing? I swallowed hard. Flirting. Destroying my sanity. Making me forget she was technically a criminal. But instead of saying any of that, I muttered. Being unfairly attractive during a hostage situation. Reina actually laughed softly. The sound stunned me. Not cold. Not mocking. Real. Warm enough to make my chest tighten unexpectedly. You're not my hostage, she murmured. Aren't I? No. Her gaze sharpened slightly. If you truly wanted to leave. She stepped closer. Too close. I would let you. The problem? I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to anymore. And that realization terrified me more than the gunshots. Reina noticed my silence. A dangerous kind of satisfaction flickered briefly across her face. Then, her phone rang. The mood shattered instantly. Reina answered immediately, her expression turning cold again. Yes. Silence. Then suddenly, her eyes darkened violently. Who touched her? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. I watched her carefully while she listened in silence. Every second made her look more dangerous. More furious. Finally, she spoke again. Bring him to me. The call ended. I stared at her nervously. What happened? Reina looked at me for several seconds before answering. One of my men searched the ballroom security footage. And? There was a man following you before the shooting started. A chill ran down my spine. What? He touched your arm while passing behind you. I blinked. That's it? Reina's expression hardened instantly. That's enough. The possessiveness in her tone hit me like fire. You're angry because someone touched my arm accidentally? It wasn't accidental. You can't know that. I can. How? Reina walked toward me again slowly. The tension returned instantly. He looked at you, she said quietly, for too long. My heartbeat betrayed me immediately. God. This woman was insane. Dangerously insane. And somehow unbelievably attractive while acting that way. You're jealous, I whispered before thinking. The room went still. Reina stared at me silently. Then, instead of denying it, she stepped between my knees where I sat on the edge of the bed. My breathing stopped completely. Miyu, she said softly, you have no idea what you do to me. Her voice wrapped around me like velvet. Warm. Dangerous. Intimate. I couldn't move. Could barely think. Reina's hand lifted slowly toward my face. Not touching. Hovering. Like she was restraining herself. Which somehow felt even more intense. You should sleep, she murmured. That's a strange thing to say while looking at me like that. A tiny smile touched her lips again. You notice too much. I'm trying to survive. You're trying to flirt. Heat exploded across my face. I am not. You are. God. The worst part? Maybe she was right. Because despite everything, despite the danger and fear and insanity, I wanted her closer. Wanted to know what would happen if she finally stopped holding herself back. Reina's eyes darkened slightly as if she could hear every reckless thought in my head. Then suddenly, someone screamed downstairs. The sound echoed sharply through the mansion. Reina's expression changed instantly. Cold. Lethal. She turned toward the door immediately. What now? I whispered. Another shout echoed downstairs. Then gunfire. My heart nearly stopped. Reina pulled a handgun from beneath her suit jacket so smoothly it looked practiced. Terrifyingly practiced. She looked back at me once. And somehow even holding a weapon. She still looked beautiful. Lock the door behind me, she ordered calmly. What? Absolutely not. Miyu. No. You can't just walk into a shooting situation like some dramatic mafia wife. A bullet shattered part of the hallway window outside. I screamed instinctively. Raina moved instantly. One arm wrapped tightly around my waist while she pulled me down against her chest protectively. The force knocked both of us partly onto the bed. My breathing became frantic. Her body covered mine completely. Warm. Strong. Dangerous. Another gunshot echoed somewhere downstairs. But all I could focus on was Raina's face inches from mine. Her silver eyes searched me rapidly. Are you hurt? I shook my head breathlessly. For one suspended second. Neither of us moved. Her hand remained firmly against my waist. My fingers had accidentally clenched against the front of her shirt. And the way she was looking at me now. God. Not cold anymore. Not distant. Hungry. Obsessed. Like seeing me almost hurt had snapped something inside her. Miyu, she whispered roughly. Then suddenly. The bedroom door handle started turning from the outside. Once. Twice. My entire body froze beneath Raina. Rain hammered violently against the windows while distant gunfire echoed somewhere deeper inside the mansion. The luxurious bedroom suddenly felt suffocatingly small. Raina didn't move. Didn't panic. But I felt the exact moment her body changed against mine. Every muscle tightened. Every ounce of warmth vanished beneath something colder. Deadlier. The silver-gray eyes staring down at me moments ago with dangerous obsession now looked capable of murder. The handle turned harder. Someone was trying to force the door open. Raina's arm remained locked tightly around my waist while the other held the handgun steadily toward the entrance. Stay behind me, she said quietly. I swallowed hard. You say that like I wouldn't. Another loud bang shook the door. I flinched instantly. Raina noticed. Her free hand briefly touched my cheek. Gentle. Too gentle for someone